lots of the things that were discussed in the past few days were basically about transparency. Yesterday, after losing the game, the coach of Egypt and other players, I think, also accused Argentina of cheating, as I understand. Some days before, where there was all of this situation with the FIFA, and well, should this US player be accepted to play or not? Should the red card be overturned or not? Well, so game a credible tournament and a fun tournament needs to be done in a fair way with fair rules that apply to everyone consistently. And Kleros, over the years, we have studied and discussed the different situations where it could be used as a tool for a number of situations of fairness in sports. And also, I also like to remember, even if it's not about football, that in the very early days of Kleros, one of the inspirations was the esports and gaming. There was this game called Counter-Strike that is like a shooter game where you have like two teams, terrorists and counter-terrorists, and they have to shoot each other to win. And so that game that I think must be now like at least 20 years old, they had this situation where you would have people trying to cheat because people try to win through cheating, and some of them try to do use bots to improve the aiming. Others use some type of cheats to see through the walls and other situations. And this game for tournaments, they developed this system for anti-cheating called Overwatch, where what they did, they would have if someone would flag some player because of suspicion of cheating, they would have the recording of the game sent to a panel of players, and those players were to act as jurors to decide if there was evidence of aim assistance in the accused player, if there is vision assistance, and you have like this, if you want to call it that way, like a panel of juror interface that similar to what we have in Kleros, and this is what they used to see, and they used to call it judgment also. So this system was like a early version of a crowdsourced system for dispute resolution, if you want to call it that way, but it had the problem that it was controlled by the company, and so there was no really transparency in the sense that the company could decide which recording to send to the audit or to the trial. They could decide how to count the votes because they own the server. They could decide, who the jurors would be. So there was no transparency in the system. And this was called out many times in forums, in Reddit, people accusing Overwatch of cheating, basically. So this was a bit, if you want to call it Kleros, before Kleros. It had the idea of crowdsourcing, it had the idea of jurors, but it lacked this idea of blockchain to have traceability and auditability of the decisions and of the process, and also the different way of incentivizing jurors. They did give incentives to jurors, but not based on sharing points. It was based on, they would give prices, you would get a weapon for your next game or stuff like that. So in the very early days, I had this friend who was a bit of a fan of Counter-Strike, and he introduced me to that. And I was thinking, okay, what if you apply this mechanism from Counter-Strike into football, and you have this idea of having a referee with a crowdsourced idea, collective intelligence? And I wrote this blog post in December 2014. You can see this still up, so you can check it, where I proposed this mechanism to make decisions about, refereeing decisions based on this crowdsourced juror idea. And then I was like, okay, what if we go one step further and we just replace, this idea of football and gaming by, judges and justice? And this is the idea I published this in my blog in March, 4 months after the first one about football. And then long story short, in September 2017, like 2 years later, there was Kleros was being born as a generalized version of that mechanism that you could use for football and for judges, and now it's a general mechanism that you can use for lots of different things. Okay, so the idea of football was in the spirit of Kleros since the very, very early days of the project. And in 2018, right after we started, this Kleros was already working. We had a team being assembled. And we were in the middle of the Russia World Cup. And in the Russia World Cup, as in early World Cup, there was, I think that was the first one that implemented VAR as a decision-making process for controversial plays. And this is where I started to think, what if I came back to the idea of a crowd referee, and what if we can implement this idea of VAR, but instead of having a bunch of referees in this little room making the decisions, you could crowdsource the decision on the audience, on the people who were watching the game, and you could have not just three people making the decision, maybe thousands or millions, maybe, if you want. So we published this article, and you could have basically controversial plays. Well, this was in a very controversial play happened in the last River Boca derby, and you have the play, and then you can have jurors making decisions. So was this a foul or not? Should it be a yellow card? So basically the normal Kleros interface where you can make decisions about different situations. Okay, so this came in the 2018, and also after this, we also started to experiment and think about what if we combine football with AI agents. So we have been trying to see what happens when agents become jurors, and we made this experiment where we had kind of VAR situations where you have controversial plays, and we had a panel of AI agents making decisions. So in this case, we used, I think one was Gemini, another one was ChatGPT, and then we had Claude. And then we showed them different plays. One of them was Frank Lampard's very famous disallowed goal in the South Africa World Cup. And we showed them the video, and they had to decide whether this was or was not a goal. And here, this was a very controversial play because, it obviously was a goal. And then the GPTs, they all agreed on this, and they all agreed it was a goal, and they justified that this was a goal because of, the video showed clearly that the ball went inside the goal, so everyone is on the same page and all good. But then there is this other very famous event that happened in the 2014 World Cup final that unfortunately affected Argentina. In this collision between the German goalkeeper Manuel Neuer and Higuain, and this is the play. Neuer goes out to and the GPTs in this situation, they didn't agree. Two of them voted it was not a foul. One of them voted it was a foul, and they gave their justifications. The GPT-1 said that it was not a foul because it was not a deliberate intent to foul. The second one said that it was a foul because it was excessive force by Neuer. And the third one said that it was accidental, so no foul. Okay? This was an experiment we did in the early days. We were starting to experiment with AI agents and dispute resolution. And then people saw these ideas we had and started to make research about the topic. One of the researchers on this was Muhammad Ayan Shehar. He's a lawyer from Pakistan, and he did actually a research where he took this idea of the crowdsourced VAR up to the last consequences. So on how to integrate Kleros with AI to make an assisted VAR. And he submitted this paper not very long ago. See, it was published July 2nd, 1 week ago. And you can read this, and I can show you some of the screenshots of the paper and what it covers. Remember this very famous handball by Thierry Henry that helped France get into the 2010 World Cup, the qualifying game. He scored with the hand. Then obviously the Neuer-Higuain game play, and then other plays by Messi. So he made a really thorough study of how Kleros can be implemented in the context of VAR. Also with very nice infographics and very easy to understand of how the process would work. And this is how it would work in the context of human jurors, how much time you should give them. I mean, this could be very, very fast. I mean, he also proposed another mechanism based on AI. We could make the decision, imagine like, I don't know, in 10 seconds. So you have a VAR that doesn't stop the game for like 5 minutes every time they call it. So it's going to be way, way better as an experience for making the decisions. So this is a topic I wanted to mention. And the report is there for you to read it. And we have explored this a lot. We also made a conference in Switzerland in partnership with the University of Neuchatel, LexTech Institute, which is a very important innovation in law institute from Switzerland, and with the WIPO, dispute resolution section, to explore and make a gathering of some people who are thinking and working on the future of dispute resolution in the esports industry. And there were people of FIFA there, and people who were working in the TAS, which is the Tribunal for Arbitration for Sports in Switzerland, that handle like a very high-profile cases about disputes about sports. I mean, what happened in the World Cup with this player Balogun, who was authorized to play that game. We'll see. Maybe we'll end up in that tribunal because it was a very high-profile situation. I mean, maybe since the US lost, no very big damage was done. But I can tell you, if the US won with 3 goals by Balogun, I can tell you that this would definitely have gone to this arbitration in the TAS. And well, my presentation, I spoke a bit about the Kleros for the VAR system. And if you want to take a look at this, I mean, you can, the talk is there. So it's a great way to see how we are thinking about dispute resolution and the sports. And I don't know, I made this presentation a few months ago before the World Cup, and I recommended Infantino that if he wants to get in touch with us, we will be happy to help FIFA increase the transparency of their decisions, not necessarily in the VAR, but also in other situations, in making decisions about how many games should a player be out if they get sent away, or whatever you want to explore together. We are open for it. So yeah, hopefully this can be a tool for greater transparency and more legitimacy in football, because we love the game and we want to make it better. So I wanted to say some of this because it was very appropriate for this World Cup moments. My DMs are open, Mr. Infantino. Anytime you want to contact me or any one of the team,